my spark. Living in this crazy time, putting back the pieces of my mind. I know how to run from the dark and fly. Feel my wings spread, levitate into the clouds. I'm so high above the ground. I'm rising. I'm soaring above it. It all. I just wanna be free. Finally, I wanna be free.
Race, conversations, and law enforcement. This is Moses' People Speak. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Moses People Speak. I am your host, Terry Watson, and I am very excited about today's conversation with our guest. Before we get started, I always have some announcements, so take some time to tell us where you're watching from. Please like and share. Let's get folks in this conversation, and hopefully we have some good dialogue. Um, and I'll say one cool thing about today's program is we have had this guest on our special episode uh, years ago when we were discussing the insurrection and the reaction to from black law enforcement, should I say. So we are looking forward to really diving into this discussion, and I'm really looking forward to um, this dialogue. Reminder, the symposium on conscious law enforcement and inclusive practices registration is now open. By all means, it is will be totally virtual. Please go ahead and sign up. We are very excited to discuss the intersectionality of race and disability this year, and hopefully we will get some great discussion in those symposium sessions too. So registration is open. Get ahead and sign up, and I will also later on drop the link in the chat. I think last time we were together, we were discussing the database that no longer exists. It was the National Law Enforcement Accountability Database. And I'm going to keep reminding folks about this because this is something that was leading to accountability and transparency. So we're going to continue this discussion until we actually get something similar back. So just FYI. All right, let's talk about our guest today. So I'm excited to have someone who's no stranger to me. I've known him for years. We've done some things together in the past. Of course, I'm talking about retired Lieutenant Charles Wilson. So Charles is the current National Association for Black Law Enforcement Officers chairman. He's also a founder and member of the organization, which is really dedicated to addressing the issues of Black law enforcement, as well as enhancing and empowering the minority community. So I am so excited to have my guest, Charles Wilson, with us. Charles, welcome to Moses People Speak.
Terry, thank you so very much for inviting me.
Yes, I'm really looking forward to this conversation. You and I have done some work, I would say probably since 2020, if not before. And at least, yeah. And one of the things that I've definitely have been in support of is NABLEO, the NABLEO conference, which I know we could talk about a little bit as well. But I want people, those who don't know who you are, Charles, to give a little introduction to your background and what you've done in law enforcement.
I'm old school. I started in the profession back in 1971 on my birthday. There isn't a whole lot that I have not done in the profession. I've done patrol. I've done traffic. I've worked narcotics. I've been in internal affairs twice.
Mm-hmm.
I've been a police chief twice. Uh, I spent my first 21 and a half years in Ohio. Spent the last 23 and a half as a lieutenant with one of the campus law enforcement agencies in Rhode Island.
Mm-hmm.
And in April 2016, I got tired of people jacking with me and told them, bye. The job wasn't fun anymore. I say that with the knowledge that I truly enjoyed what I did. I enjoyed it because of the people that I was able to work with and help and steer in the right directions to make their lives better.
Right.
So that's the who and what I am. I've been involved with NABLEO since 1999, for all intents and purposes. I've been a board delegate since 2002, when we formally organized the national body. I became chair for the first time in 2008, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Here you are.
you know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's dive into this conversation, Charles. First of all, let's talk about NABLEO, because again, one of the things that I've been we discussing beforehand is some what NABLEO has done, specifically when it comes to speaking out on certain issues of injustice. And again, we even titled this episode "Ensuring Community Justice," and that's not words that I came up with. That's the words that came from the mission of NABLEO. So, can you just dive into, what's NABLEO? Why is NABLEO important, especially when we're talking about the Black and Brown communities?
Well, NABLEO is one of several organizations that have been in existence since the early 1970s. We, in fact, were the entire Northeast region of the National Black Police Association from 1972 until 1999. At that time, we broke away. We're going to call it philosophical issues. We formed the current national body in April of 2002. With 20 some odd organizations. We still have 20 separate chapters, although when we broke away, we took 40.
Wow.
The 20 that are not formal members of NABLEO are still basically affiliates, because we work with them. Our overall goals and mission are one, to advocate for the issues and concerns of Black and Brown law enforcement officers. We try everything we can to improve their conditions in the workplace and in the community, because we are the guardians of those communities. We do everything we can to make sure that the communities we work for receive true justice, that they receive a better sense of bonding and relationship with those who are sworn to protect them.
Right.
We do that through a number of ways. All of our organizations are very heavily involved in the communities they serve in. When we do our conferences, we open the conferences up to everybody that wants to attend. We do everything we can to make sure that the community understands, that we know a strong community is a wise one. And we believe that the community is deserving of a positive relationship with their stakeholders in blue.
Yeah. You mentioned something. I want to dive into this because I mentioned before that you were on a special episode of Moses People Speak. When we talked about the insurrection of January 6th insurrection, and you were one of the panelists that joined that episode. Because what I did was I put a call out to Black law enforcement, and Charles, you like always answered that call. But most recently, I know that NABLEO put out a press release about the pardoning of some of the January 6th insurrectionists. Do you want to dive into that conversation a little bit?
The long and short of our press statement is that we believe the pardoning of those 1,500 people who assaulted the nation's capital, attacked and injured over 120 law enforcement officers who were doing nothing but their job, destroyed property, and made a mockery of the rule of law, was an insult to every police officer there. Those pardons showed a significant message that's now being sent to every law enforcement officer that they say they support. It has the effect and impact of being able to say, we don't care about you at all.
Yeah.
Hang on just a second. Let me call you right back.
Love it. That's probably your first on this episode or this show.
Hey, what can I tell you? But no, we looked at that as being a total insult to law enforcement. What it says is, we don't care that you got injured. We don't care that you were serving in those positions, or that you got hurt. Mm-hmm. We just don't care.
Yeah, it's one of those things, and again, when we talk about trust and we talk about community trust at that, right? I think one of the things that we typically don't dive into is, what does the perspective of law enforcement, specifically Black law enforcement, how does that come out and when we have any discussions about accountability, trust, and what have you not? I would love to get your take on, and if you don't mind, is sort of, when you think about NABLEO, what is some of the things you are really hoping? What do you see in like the next couple of years that's going to be some of the biggest challenges for organizations like NABLEO, who's really grounded in establishing trust within the
I think the issues over the next at least 2 years for every organization that is trying to have an impact on how the Black and brown community is being treated, and I have to say it that way, where this administration is concerned, we have to be concerned about the impact that they're having on destroying our history. Okay. One of the things that NABLEO does, and we've done this habitually ever since we had a website, is every day of the year, there's some information about Black history. Every day of the year. Okay.
Yeah.
Every day of the year, and on every page of our website, there's a quotation from somebody in our community to enlighten you, to make you feel empowered. You know, we're going to have to work on making sure that people stay incentivized about taking control of their environment. Okay. Next year is the midterm elections. So we have to start now to get people ready for those elections. You know,
Right.
we have to ensure that people are properly registered to vote, that they know where and how to vote.
Right.
Okay. We have to make sure that where the interactions between community and law enforcement is concerned, we have to ensure that everybody in our community understands how to properly interact with law enforcement. Okay.
Yeah.
Trying to argue with the man on the street ain't going to work for you. Okay. You need to be sure that you handle those interactions intelligently, calmly, and with an eye towards being able at the end of it to hold people accountable. We have to ensure as well that our legislators put in place legislation that will in fact hold law enforcement accountable. You know, what people have to take into consideration, there's over 800,000 police officers, male, female, black, white, and indifferent across the country. All of them are not the idiots that you see in the press. All of them are not the people that are trying to control and destroy our communities. Most law enforcement officers want to do nothing more than go to work, do their job, hopefully be able to help somebody, get off, no bruises, no complaints, go home to mama and the dog and have dinner.
Yeah. Interesting you bring this up because one of the things I would love to get your take on, Charles, is when we do see bad actors in law enforcement,
Mm-hmm.
what really should we be doing about that? Because before you answer that question, I want to phrase it in a way to make sure it's clear. So whenever we have, let's take one of the press releases that we talked about before was the Tyree Nichols, right?
Mm-hmm.
This was a great example of officers harming folks from our community, and what sort of startled some folks is that those officers had our complexion, right? And I think when we talk about some of these bad actors, we I would love to get your point of view of how, as a community, how do we deal with those bad actors? Because in dealing with those bad actors,
What we have to start with, Terry, is understanding that, first off, the way that we make the change in the culture of this profession is not by, or rather, it begins by who and how do we hire. Okay. We have to ensure that the best candidates from our community are in the mix for these jobs. Okay.
Yeah.
We have to make people understand and be interested in becoming law enforcement officers. The job pays well, the benefits are great, and being quite truthful, we do not do a whole heck of a lot of hard work every day. Okay, so it's in the who and how we hire. It's in the what and how we train. We have traditionally in this profession trained people to be warriors, not guardians. So we have to ensure that the curriculums for our police academies get changed so that they are more, they address more the actual needs of the community and the issues that law enforcement officers really need to be using. Okay, we have to look at who supervises the people on the street. If the
Yeah.
supervisor is not any good, you're going to end up with a bunch of dummies.
Mhm.
We then also, and finally, have to look at what are the policies and procedures that are being put in place to guide everything else.
Mhm.
Now that requires, all of that requires us to be forceful with those in the legislatures, in the
Mhm.
city councils, getting involved with the chief of police, the sheriff,
Mhm.
sitting down with them and letting them know, hey, we're not a bunch of dummies.
Mhm.
Yeah, you work for us.
Yeah.
And this is what we need you to accomplish for us.
Now, like I said, love their response, and I want to dig a little deeper, if you don't mind, Charles, because I think you put some nuggets out there. I want to make sure that we talk about those nuggets.
Yeah.
The first one is hiring. I think I remember we did an episode years ago, one of our early episodes, where we interviewed some of the folks behind the movie um, "The Killing of Kenneth Chamberlain," which was based out of New York. And one of the panels on that discussion, I think it was the director of the film, said, if you have a chance, you should YouTube or look up the police recruitment videos. Uh, and what he was saying was there are some communities in which the recruitment of law enforcement looks different from community to community, right? And then who you recruit then is who you hire, right? I would love to get your point of view on that too, because you make a good point about who you try to bring into this profession and then in this community.
I'm going to give it to you from our published research. Okay.
Hmm.
Law enforcement, as it's configured today, does not properly and adequately recruit for people who look like me. Okay. Uh, they do not properly go out and try to connect with the core constituencies in the Black community, meaning groups like NABLEO, groups like the various Divine Nine organizations,
Hmm.
the NAACP, the Urban League,
Hmm.
the Black Church. They don't connect with those people. But guess what? Those are the folks who know the people who really want to become police officers. Okay? If you tell me that one of your primary candidates is a Black female, but you don't tell me that you're putting your recruiting information in the hair salons, fitness centers, and shopping malls where every Black woman I know goes at least once a week, don't feed me that crap about you looking for Black women. Black and brown law enforcement make up approximately 12% of the overall law enforcement community in this country.
Hmm. Uh, you know, I would love, and you mentioned now this concept that we talked a lot about on this show, and it's the concept of the guardian versus the warrior.
Yeah.
I would like you to just dive into the difference between those two because I think we hear those terms a lot. I would love for you to dive in. What's the difference between the guardian versus the warrior?
Well, if you think about it, and you've been involved with NABLEO for a while,
Hmm.
what do you see in the names of all of our organizations? You see that word guardians,
Yeah.
uh, and that's what we try to be. We try to be the guardians, the helpmates of our communities. We have organizations that once a month do food drives. We have organizations that uh, do uh, do scholarships every year. As an example, this year for our conference, we're giving away 4 $1,000 scholarships. Okay. Uh, we recognize that it's not a lot of money, but it will help a kid with bills for books, maybe help with some of those little side meals that they hold in the dorms at night. Uh, uh, hey, you know, when you go to an HBCU, that helps, brother. Believe me, I went to one.
Yeah.
Uh, uh,
Yeah.
but it's a needed concept because you cannot have a warrior mentality and properly serve and protect the community. Okay. A
Mhm.
warrior mentality says that everybody you run across is somebody that you got to whoop up on. That ain't happening.
Mhm.
That's not happening. And that will not make for a good, strong relationship, nor will it provide legitimacy to what that agency is doing.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it. Now, before I ask any other questions, you mentioned the NABLEO conference, and I want if you don't mind, Charles, just to talk about what can folks expect from the NABLEO conference this year. Where is it going to be located, time, date, et cetera, et cetera.
This year's conference is being held in National Harbor, Maryland. It's being hosted by the Coalition of Black Maryland State Troopers. Um, Conference dates are September 24th through 26th. Uh, Registration rate is $400 for members, $450 for non-members. You can register online at conference.nableo.org. We've even made arrangements for people who can only do one day of the conference. One day of the conference costs you $150, but you register online. Okay. Our conference scholarship and awards dinner is going to be Friday evening, September 26th. We've got several people already set to be recognized. Aisha Braveboy is the recipient of this year's Law Enforcement Leadership Award. Maryland Senator Joanne Benson is the recipient of the Community Leadership Award. Dr. Lorenzo Boyd is one of the recipients of the Chairman's Award. Captain Thomas Boone from Prince George's County is getting the Community Policing Award. And then, as I said, we are planning to present 4 student scholarships.
Yes. I think that's always one of the highlights for me when I attend the gala. Because what is interesting is that it's always members of that community that is being highlighted.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah,
predominantly. And
predominant.
I'll have to say it that way, predominantly. There are several of the awards that we give that are specifically geared towards people who are members of NABLEO.
Mhm,
As an example, the Lifetime Achievement Award, uh,
mhm.
the Chairman's Award. Although the Chairman's Award can go to just about anybody. Uh, but predominantly the award recipients, the scholarship recipients, are all people from the community we host our conferences in. Uh, we feel that that's a necessary and needed part of what we do.
Yeah,
We are looking very anxiously towards a good mix of people attending. We're inviting everybody within the DMV area. Uh, our email campaign is hitting somewhere in the neighborhood of 12,000 names. Uh, our mailing campaign is going to hit somewhere around 1,000. You know, uh, we don't know yet what kind of impact the federal uh, issues are going to have on the conference, but that's going to be what it's going to be. Yeah, uh, we're we want to welcome anyone who wants to attend, plain and simple.
yeah. And I know talking about, I don't know if you want to dive into this conversation or not, but when we I was talking to one of our members in SFJ, and we were just having this conversation about, federal spaces not supporting
Yeah,
conferences. And as you know, we're getting for our symposium in April. And by the way, Charles, it is virtual, it is free, so definitely share amongst your members as well. Um, but we were talking about this because they're saying that for certain professional developments and training,
yeah,
they would not be supported. And one
yeah.
of our members made a statement that said, back in the old days, we weren't supported either, and we had to, uh,
And
we
that's
had
true.
to, yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's
Oh,
true. I mean, their list of proscribed conferences right now is encompassing at least 5 organizations that represent either women in law enforcement or black folks in law enforcement. Okay. Now, so far, they have not put NABLEO on their list. I'm anticipating that they will, because of the overall content and focusing that we do with our conferences. We focus on issues that allow law enforcement to go back into their communities and have a better relationship with the people they serve. Now, if you want to call that DEI training, go for it. If you want to call that, uh, whatever, go for it.
but
But we're not going to change the way we do things.
right, and I think one of the things too, and again, I had the pleasure of attending, I think the last 4 NABLEO conferences. It's the information, it's the skills that you need to effectively be a person that serves the community, right? You can't serve the community if you can't have a dialogue with the folks that lives in your community, right? You can't serve the community if you are, as you put it, Charles, have the warrior's mentality, right? And so I think this conversation about, and again, I'm familiar with the other organizations that are on that list, and really say the same thing about them. And for those organizations, they also have a component in promotion, all right? Promotion for folks that's typically left out that promotion conversation, right?
Mhm.
And so, I think, it's going to be important moving forward that, yeah, we continue to do what you're doing, right? And not change course, right? So I'm glad to hear that's the case with NABLEO as well. But again, I sort of anticipate that too, right? So, um, all right. So, one more side random thing, Charles, because we were talking about this before the show, and I would love for you to elaborate. Is we were talking about pardoning, and of course the pardoning of the January 6th insurrection, folks. But there's some conversations now about pardoning Derek Chauvin, and and if those who don't remember, because it's not that long ago, it was 2020, in which Derek Chauvin was kneeling on the neck of George Floyd, which started a lot of the conversations that we are having these days. I would love to get your point on this because I know that this is something that we are keeping an eye on as well.
We are definitely keeping an eye on it. Uh, as I mentioned to you earlier, uh, number one, I believe that pardoning Derek Chauvin is a direct affront to the Black community. Secondly, I'm going to say that if they have the audacity to do that, they will have effectively put a target on the back of every single law enforcement officer in this country because the Black community ain't going to stand for that. It ain't going to happen. You know, uh, well, and I see somebody say that if they let him out, he won't last long in the streets. And I'm going to tell you that while I agree with that, I'm going to say that it should not happen that he come to harm, okay? Because that's what they want to see. That's what they want to find us doing, okay? Now, being truthful, even if they pardon him on the federal charges, he still got to face trial and conviction on the state charges. So he ain't getting out of jail no time freaking soon.
Right.
But it again goes to show what they really think about folks in our community.
Mm-hmm.
5 years ago, when he killed George Floyd, that was the overpowering generation of community activism in this country. We actually got a few things done and taken care of. Now they're taking it away.
Right.
And now they're trying to put in place the one specific issue that they know will drive a wedge between the community and law enforcement.
Yeah. And
Scared for those cops that are going to be working the street, black, white, or indifferent.
yeah, and this is what concerns me too, because it is this remind folks when George Floyd happened, there was a overwhelming uh, speaking out from law enforcement, black, white, and otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You couldn't find a organization or any. I mean, even the FOP, and I'm not going to dive into the FOP today, but even the FOP was speaking out on this.
Yes.
This would not only send a message of disrespect to our community, I do think it would send a disrespect to all of the law enforcement profession, because then you are left in a position to have to speak out again, right? Or challenge it. And I just, you know, with the accountability conversation that, you know, we talked about this earlier about the database going away. Um, I don't I worry about what this means for law enforcement in general, and definitely, of course, our Black community.
Well,
So
let us not forget that the FOP endorsed.
that's why I said, Chuck, I wasn't going to talk about the FOP.
No, I'm not going to hold my tongue on that.
No, yeah,
You know,
because it makes me
we
upset,
have
man.
members within our organization who are
Yes.
members of the FOP who told their local unions, we're not going to support that.
Yeah.
And they were ready to pull their dues money. Okay?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yet, that's the organization that decided to make a statement along with the IACP about the pardons. You know,
Yeah.
they laid dollars short, brother.
This was a typical what we call FAFO moment.
There's no fooling.
Oh man,
And
wait.
one of us is going to say what it means. Okay?
We probably get kicked out if we say what it means. So, that's a great question here. Where does corrections come into play with this? Are corrections officers to ever be included? I will get ahead, dive into that one.
I would tell you, number one, correctional officers are members of NABLEO. In fact, one of our national delegates is a former correctional officer. We invite anybody and everybody that's a member of the law enforcement profession to become a member of NABLEO.
LEP.
Whether it's as an individual or if you have enough people that have that intent as a chapter. You know, our programming is geared towards everybody in law enforcement, not just municipal agencies.
Yeah.
We've tried to present information that allows any officer to go back into their community and be an asset.
Yeah.
You know,
You know, I know that corrections are typically are forgotten when we talk about the law enforcement profession, but they hold an important role as well. And especially, you know, I think actually our first two guests, maybe our first three guests, were correctional officers on this show,
okay.
and what they were able to speak to about their experiences, I think lend some insight to not just the profession of corrections, but the impact that they can have on the inside. So when folks are released and re-enter society, they play a role in it. And I'll mention, shout out to my brother Raymond Hicks. He was one of those folks who we interviewed a couple of years ago, who was a correctional officer out of Florida, who in himself was you know, he was one that's supported folks on the inside to the point when they got on the outside, they remembered him. And when he got into his framing, they supported him. He told that story great. He said, you know, there was when he got framed and he was sent to jail. When he got out, it was one of the folks that was on the inside they gave him a job when he got on the outside because, you know, of his situation. So that the importance of corrections we don't want to forget
But see,
about.
that guardian mindset
Yes,
is such that you treat people like people.
yes,
Everybody that you run across deserves respect and to have their dignity. Okay. Now that includes people just out on the roadway, walking down the street,
hmm,
people in their homes,
right,
and it includes people behind bars. Okay. Because no matter what they did, they still deserve to be shown some respect and dignity. Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Just like your guy was saying, you know, the way he treated people is the way they came out and treated him.
yeah. That's
Okay.
right. Yep,
And
yep,
that's the mindset that every law enforcement officer has to have in order to have a good relationship and
mhm,
good working status within their community.
yes, yes. Now, I do have a side note here, and this is go off a little off topic here, Charles. But I want to give a shout out to my dear sister, Carrie Horn, who
What they're
is
doing to that
facing.
girl is a shame.
Yeah, we
Okay.
I don't want to end this. Yeah, I don't want to end this episode without diving into this conversation. So those who don't know, Carrie Horn has been facing some issues in Buffalo, and currently, I believe I don't know if this is the case. If she is still being, she's been arrested, she's been locked up. I'm not sure if she posts
The
bail
last
yet.
I saw Terry, they were talking about having her released sometime this evening.
Okay, yeah, and again, this is off topic, so this is like the but as you know, me and Carrie, we're friends. We've been friends for years now, and we stood by her in the passing of Carrier's law in Buffalo. We stood by her when she was trying to get her pension, and there have been things that's been happening in that city that has been targeting Carrier and her family, right? And so, much respect to Carrier. I don't know. Again, I my goal is to call her when I get a chance. I'm just finding out about this information tonight. I've been so warmed up with work stuff. So we wanna give you some support, Carrier. But yeah, you probably know more than I do at this point,
Well, I
Charles.
mean, I'm just going by what I got through
Yeah.
a hit from Facebook.
Hmm.
Uh, she apparently had a court hearing this morning, went to court and found out that they had a bench warrant out for her. Okay, now I'm inclined to go along with what was in the posting. Most people I know of aren't going to go to court knowing that there's a warrant sitting there waiting for them. They're going to try and find something else to do or somewhere else to be. Okay.
Hmm.
Uh, but they hit her with the bench warrant and a $30,000 bond. So the last I saw was that they were in the process of trying to have her released sometime this evening. I do
Hmm.
not know whether that has taken place yet. Uh,
Hmm.
you know, uh,
Yeah.
it's what I see of it is a straight out issue of harassment.
Yeah.
Okay, uh, whether you believe in how she approached the situation she was involved in or not,
Yeah.
you still have to recognize that there is a way that law enforcement should react towards the people they deal with. There is a way that their counterparts should react towards what their partners are doing. Okay.
Right.
If you're one of the officers who just watches everybody go completely nuts on the prisoners and so forth and says nothing, then you're part of the problem. You're just as bad as they are.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
And
That's what Carriel's law was made for. And quiet as it's kept. We were talking about Derek Chauvin.
Right.
People
Right.
didn't know that the city of Minneapolis had
I do it
a law enforcement interaction standard in their rules and regs, and they
Right.
didn't properly run it.
Right. And I know that the issue, this is stemming a lot from the passage of Carriel's law. I also know that the issue that happened with Carriel is that she, even out of uniform, and she's not a police officer anymore, but when she was out, she saw that during the frigid cold in Buffalo, because Buffalo got a new code. They have a new code that we call that new code in Buffalo. And this was during the snowstorm. They had someone sitting in the snow in that code, and then Cario was asking, "Can you please not leave them in the cold? Right? Can you take this handcuff or whatever, this person, that detainee, because it is Buffalo and it's a snow blizzard and it's cold. Can you take them out to snow?" And then things got escalated, and Carrio's a fighter. At the end of the day, we know this.
That's
Carrio.
called being a good cop. Don't go away. I'm sorry.
So yeah, she couldn't walk by, she couldn't drive by and see a detainee in the snow in the blizzard in Buffalo, New York. So we got I just finding out this information. Of course, I'm just getting some information. We go to touch base when we find what's going on and see what we need to get done. Because I know that Carrio is my dear sister and praying for you right now, wherever you at. So
yeah, I can commiserate with doing that. I did 45 years on the job and I'm still getting in trouble.
Understandable. Well, without doubt, you dropped a lot of nuggets on us, Charles. But you've watched this show plenty of times. I see you in the comments, so you know exactly what's coming next. I ask every single guest this question when they come on this show, and of course, you are no different. So, without saying this, my brother, I would love to hear what is your message for America.
My message to America is be more aggressive about how we want to be treated. Be more considerate of each other as members of our own community. Be more attentive to what God wants us to do. Because in the end, this whole process is in His hands. We may not like what's taking place. We can definitely disagree with what's happening. But we have to recognize that it's all in God's hands. And with that, I say thank you to everyone who is out there trying to make a difference, to everyone who is making the effort to make a change. Thank you so very much.
My brother. That was beautiful, man. And I appreciate. First of all, I gotta say, Charles, every time I put a call out and I needed someone to respond, I know I can count on you to be one of the first to say what you need me to do, Terry. And I appreciate that. We've dealt with some legal battles for folks in the past.
Yeah.
We dealt with some folks struggling with mental health in the past. And I think anytime a brother can show up for our own people, it definitely is a powerful, powerful thing. So I want to thank you for consistently being that person throughout your career and even after your career. I think you're probably working harder now, even because you're retired. So
Retirement wasn't all who got hooked up to me.
Well,
I
oh
thought I was
man,
gonna be just able to lay back in the cut and play with my grandkids, man. No, I'm sorry, that didn't happen.
you got some more work to do. Well, I want to invite you for maybe to extend 10 more, maybe 5 or 10 more minutes to answer any questions people who are watching may have. So we're going to take a short break and we will be right back. Please, please, please stay on and let's do the after party with Charles Wilson. So we'll be right back.
Tell us what you really mean, ma'am. Law enforcement officers should be role models, period. If you can't be a mentor, you shouldn't have that uniform.
I could take a break from this world.
All my blinders are taken off. I can see what you guys are talking about. Y'all don't see what we're talking about yet. Policing is the law enforcement arm of systemic racism.
Well, the message for America is that they need to wake up. We need to stop the repeat. We need to stop the revolving door. And we need to come up with better ways of law enforcement. Criminal justice reform needs to reflect what it is. Ain't no way in the world somebody should be sitting in jail with a $1 bail for months.
All right, we're back. It's funny, that very first one was that special episode. And I still remember that like it was yesterday. You, Cariel, Sonia, Heather, and who am I forgetting here?
Nikhil.
Nakaya, yes, my dear sister Nakaya. Yeah.
And she worked. Did you put the police department that she worked for in Ohio?
Yeah.
Was 10 minutes away from where I was police chief.
Wow. Yeah, that brought back memories because one, I think everyone was saying, where is the law enforcement community speaking out on this insurrection? And I think that call being answered was important. But I think that particular episode, we had some really deep conversations about the impact that insurrection had on law enforcement, specifically Black law enforcement. But okay, so we always give the chance for folks to ask questions. I'm not sure if any questions came in or not, or if we missed any questions. I think you answered the questions along the way, if I'm not mistaken. You answered the question about the corrections, and it's going down. We posted some of the NABLEO stuff. So we have no missed questions. Okay, well, I would say if we have no missed questions, Charles, is there any last thing? There's one. Should law enforcement be trained better in use of force by individuals with both a law enforcement martial science background I bear witness to too many academies have weak control tactics. I'm sorry, not academies. Academies. I bear witness that too many
I
academies
think what
have.
he's trying to ask is what they ask about the qualifications for individuals who teach use of force. And what I would say is a better concept in use of force is de-escalation training. Okay. Police officers need to understand, and in fact, law enforcement officers, and that includes municipal, campus, corrections, sheriffs, federal, state, and county officers, and tribal officers. Okay. You need to understand when to be a little, when to be more forceful and when to not be more forceful. Okay, and that's what de-escalation training teaches you. My very good friend and one of the people that you recently had on your show, Dr. Lorenzo Boyd. Okay,
Yes.
Renz teaches de-escalation. In fact, we did 4 days of de-escalation training last year here in Maryland in conjunction with the University of New Haven.
Yes.
It's a necessary program that every law enforcement officer should participate in. Okay.
Right.
We did the training here in Maryland. We did 2 days worth in Buffalo last year. You know, I'm trying to set up a situation where we do at least a 2-day session in every area where we have a chapter.
Yeah.
You know,
That would be
that critical for people to know.
Yeah, the brother Lorenzo Boyd. Actually, I want to give a shout out to the whole University of New Haven. I think what they're doing with their college in criminal justice needs some respect. Lorenzo Boyd was on the show. We also had his boss David Schroeder as well. And just the way they approach the law enforcement profession and the training that they provide to those newbies, I think that's exactly what is needed. But yes, much respect to the University of New Haven and their whole criminal justice program. I'd say we need to get probably Lorenzo and David on the show together at one point. We'll try to work on that. But one thing is the training that he provides. You just have to sign up for it, right? Yeah, you just have to sign up for it. I don't even see that cost. I think he has a grant to do that training, and so you just have to give him a time, place, and location. If I'm misspeaking, he'll correct me later on.
The thing of it is, we talked about earlier the concept of what and how we train. Okay.
Yeah.
The police academies do not train de-escalation. They do not train for critical analysis. They don't select people who have good community relations. They don't select people who have good critical incident management. They don't select people who have good social skills. They're more interested in getting Joe Bob from out in the suburbs. Or little Johnny, whose uncle or big brother or daddy was on the department 5-6 years ago.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
and those are the ones that end up being the damn idiots. Excuse me. Okay. What people don't recognize is it's the idiots that they see in the press that are causing the drop in trust
Yeah.
that the community has in in law enforcement. You know, I grew up in inner city Cleveland, and the uh, the cops in my neighborhood knew everybody in my neighborhood. You know, in fact, the one beat cop was trying to date one of my aunts. Okay, so I knew I had to have my act together. You know, but they knew everybody in the community. When I first went on the job, my sergeant told me, "You will know all the businesses. You will know all the people on your beat
Yep.
by name and what they do.
Yep.
And I'm giving you 6 months to do it."
Yep.
You know,
And I think that that's the aspect that needs to continue is police leadership need to accept that expectation
yeah,
of being a community. Not just I don't want to use the word community policing because I think that gets overused a little bit too much. I used to say if you are policing a community, then you are part of that community, and so
yes,
you should be engaged in that community. And so I love the idea of of the training. The other thing too is and again, I'm not law enforcement, so I really can't speak to this, but a lot of the time, as I understand it, is spent on firearms training when in reality, in their profession, you really don't shoot. I mean, you can find someone working on a job for 30 years that never withdrew their service weapon, right? Those individuals exist. However, there's a lot of training on firearms, and there's always a question about should there be more emphasis on de-escalation,
yes.
more emphasis on, and also, we don't talk about the sources too, but I remember we had what's the brother's name from St. Louis and Aesop, Donnie,
Harry Dunn?
Not-
Oh,
Donnie, Sergeant Donnie, yeah, he was talking about one of the things that he would like to see. In addition to that, is the a conversation about how do you deal with stress and mental health, because at the end of the job, this is a high stressed
yes.
profession, and if you have folks who are dealing with stress, mental health stress, and they're then going into the community, they're just going to transition that stress to the
And
community. So
unfortunately, the profession is just now starting to recognize that that's an issue. Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Uh, now, to combat that, we have a special workshop set up for our conference, talking
hmm
strictly about mental health in policing. Okay.
yes,
It's an issue that we believe officers need to know about. Okay.
yeah,
Um, uh, I saw a question run across about qualified immunity for police officers.
yes, yes,
I'm going to say that I don't believe qualified immunity should exist. Uh, Police officers, when it comes to the ideas of their accountability to both the profession and the community, should be treated no different than what we do doctors and lawyers.
hmm
Okay.
yeah,
If a doctor screws up, doctor gets his license taken away.
yeah,
If a lawyer screws up, lawyer can't practice law anymore. He
mhm,
loses his profession. He loses his means of making money. Okay, and that's the same thing that should happen to police officers. Okay, and I will say, it doesn't matter whether it's black, white, or indifferent. See, because we're all part of the same profession.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, my counterparts are going to tell me I'm crazy. They're going to laugh and try and make me feel bad, or try and come after me for whatever. Okay.
Right.
And I'm going to tell them take the best shot.
Yeah, you know, you're retired. You just
and unless you got control of my retirement system and TIAA, you ain't doing nothing for me, brother.
Oh, we appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. Oh man, well, you know, I don't know if we have any more questions in here. What I want to say, reminder to folks, check out the NABLEO conference. We posted the site, the conference in our chat, and it's going to be held in Maryland, very close to DC area, so that whole DMV area. And again, don't forget to sign up for our SRJ symposium in April. Again, the conversation is the intersectionality of race and disability. We are going to announce our keynote speakers in a couple of days. I'm very excited for our keynotes because they're going to speak. They speak directly to this topic, and I definitely want law enforcement to be present in this discussion as well. Chuck, I want to give you the last words, though, man.
I got to say thank you so much, Terry.
Yeah.
You know, you've been a good friend. You've been faithful supporter of NABLEO and what we do, and I truly and greatly appreciate that. I know at some point we'll do this again.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, will either act civilized or get crazy with it. You know, whichever the occasion calls for.
Yeah.
But I know that no matter what, it's going to be straight and to the point, and it's going to be real. And
Yes.
that's the bottom line with this whole conversation about community justice and ensuring community justice. You got to keep it real. You got to make sure that people understand that there is a process that we're going through, that the majority of law enforcement and damn near all of Black law enforcement is there to protect and serve, and that we're part of the community. You know, we face the same indignities that you do.
Yep.
So, you know, we can't get anything accomplished if we're constantly fighting against each other.
That is powerful words, man. Well, Charles, I want to say thank you for being a wonderful guest. I'll ask you to stay on for like 5 minutes afterwards, if you don't mind, my brother. Well, I want to give everyone a great night. Thank you for staying with us and engaging in this conversation. And I wish you all well. Everyone have a great night.
And I would tell the brother from corrections, get in touch.
Yeah, reach out. You know, I think I'm pretty sure we posted the contact to NABLEO in the chat box. But if you don't, feel free to reach out to us in the chat or private message us, and we'll make sure we'll get you connected with Charles. So yeah. All right, everyone, have a great night. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.